So, hello to everyone who joined us.
Happy Friday, happy Friday.
Welcome to Yay! Welcome to this Q&A today. My name is Maria, and I'm the founder of Got Mojo, even though I'm logged on from Jersey City Moms. And above me is my partner, Esohe.
Hi
Hi.
guys.
I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, Victoria Gaston.
Hi.
She's an incredible doula and the founder of New Era Doula here in Jersey City. She's a mom of 5 daughters, y'all. Let that sink in. 5 girls, incredible.
Yeah.
And her work is all about supporting moms with care and compassion in their postpartum journey.
Yes.
Victoria is a certified DONA doula, right? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Which is the highest certification I think you can get in the doula world.
Whew,
She's,
it's a lot of work.
I bet.
but she's also a lactation specialist, a sound healer, an herbalist, and I
Wow.
think you're also getting your yoga certification, right?
Oh no, I am a certified
And you're
Oh
instructor.
a
my
Yeah. I'm
goodness.
I'm working on getting my nutritionist
oh,
Oh God, that's
certification.
right.
and nutrition. So clearly you
It's
are
like
a very
a
well-rounded and holistic
one-stop shop.
Yeah.
one-stop shop.
Yeah.
So welcome,
That's
welcome,
amazing.
welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Yeah.
I'm
And
excited to be here.
we're excited to have you. And Victoria is going to be joining us next week as a facilitator for our #2 Birth Story Circle.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to have you join us for that. Um, that said, today we're going to be talking a little bit more about birth stories and why it's important to share our birth stories, right? And
Yeah.
we would like to hear from you today, your perspective on that.
Absolutely.
And so just to get started, if you could just tell us like how you came about starting New Era Doula and what got you to that, how your journey was getting to that.
Yeah. So my journey was pretty long, a pretty long journey. And I'd say the very beginning of it, I had no idea I was actually doing the work of a postpartum doula
Mm.
until 3 years ago, actually. And, I have 5 daughters, right? I birthed 4 of them. And my firstborn, I had at a very young age. I was 19 when I had her. So at that time, I was, I would say, the only one really in my community who I knew of going through that experience. So it definitely felt lonely at
Mm.
times. And not necessarily feeling like I was being judged, but just like the lack of understanding and the lack of resources and support, really. So that kind of led me along the line around 2 years after giving birth, being that go-to person within my community to show up to support families that needed a little bit more hands-on in transitioning after, coming home from the hospital, asking questions. There's no dumb or stupid questions when it comes to newborns. There are handbooks, but I mean, they kind of outweigh
When
one
they're
another.
live, it's a different
Yeah, it changes so much. Like just one handbook doesn't really
Yeah.
cover everything. And not necessarily saying that I have all the answers, but my feedback at that time, people felt like it was a prize to share the knowledge that I have and even be in spaces to comfort them and see them and understand them without judging.
So
right.
So I
just
was
to
that,
quickly clarify,
yeah,
you're not there for births, right? You are
I'm a
post birth,
postpartum doula.
right? Just
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
perfect.
after birth, I come and bring the magic into the
Mm.
homes. But yeah, I started off that way for a couple of years on and off, just helping families. And I had no idea that this was actual work. It
Mm.
was real work.
Right.
Because for me at the time, work was restaurants and hospitality management and,
Right.
trying to pay the bills with my firstborn.
Mm.
And it went on that way for years because I had no idea. I didn't have the knowledge. I only ever heard of a birth doula. I didn't realize that there was other types of doulas.
Right.
And, with this type of work, it certainly is something that comes extremely natural to me. I am a natural born giver, and I certainly do believe in energy and, healing the family, healing as a whole.
Mm.
So that is my view on that. And wherever I'm able to fill in gaps and show up for people in that way, by all means, I'm so happy to do that for anyone.
Yeah.
At that time, it just,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Point
it
you
just so happened to
decided to
be the
make this
parents.
your business, your
Right,
actual.
right. I just, after I learned about the postpartum doula role and how I've been doing this unknowingly for so many years, I decided to tap into that space and make it, official for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, after finding out about the role and doing my research and trying to understand which organizations will benefit me more and getting certified and what made sense for me at that time. So about 3 years ago, I was pregnant, and again for the third time. And so I'm juggling another pregnancy. I am transitioning into a remote role in the corporate world within hospitality. So that on its own was a lot. I was there just for about 3 months only until I had to leave for my own maternity leave. So even trying to manage that, I have absolutely no words.
Mm,
Yeah.
Just tears all day long, every day.
Yeah.
It was a
I
lot,
believe, yeah.
And to a certain extent, I feel like I was forced into the role because it made sense for me at the time, with COVID kind of like settling a little bit, but people going back into the workspace. And then the vaccine mandate started to kick in. And at that time, I was pregnant and I was not confident in what that vaccine would do to my baby and I. So I had no choice but to go remote and switch my original role. And now I'm learning all these great things in the role, but it was very overwhelming. It was a lot to manage.
Mm.
Right.
And that pregnancy brain is a killer.
Oh, it's
So
real.
trying to retain the information, I struggled with a lot. And I felt like although I may have been welcomed with open arms, it wasn't necessarily a breeze entering that space. I'm new. I don't know anyone. I'm pregnant, and no one understands where I am, how far I am in my pregnancy to give me enough grace to learn. And it was a lot. It was very emotional for me. So when it came to my leave, I did my best to enjoy it. However, I had to prepare to go back to work quickly. So
So,
me actually enjoying it, it
yeah.
was not ideal. It was not the ideal time.
But now you're certified and you started your own business.
Yes,
You have
yes.
tons of experience and you're working with clients today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that happens. I decided to take a leap of faith during my fourth maternity leave, which was just this past year from November
Yeah.
until March
That's
this
right. You
year.
have an almost 1 year old.
Yeah. Next Tuesday she'll be one. So
Wow.
that's exciting. Yeah, I took that leap of faith because I knew by then, like at that time, going through the certification process and really recognizing my role and what I can do for people and my ability, I love this. This brings me
Yeah.
joy to be
Yeah.
able to support my community.
Right.
So why not? So during my leave, I took that leap of faith and I registered my business and I said, okay, what do I do now? I have this whole business. Where do I take it? And it kind of feels like I've been winging it a little bit because I'm still very new to the whole small business owner kind of thing. But I would say it's been on its way. Like I have had no bumps in the road so far since I've made the decision to move forward and take on this role full time. It's been extremely seamless. I've met so many amazing families. I've worked with so many amazing families throughout the year. I've connected with so many great doulas who are just like so inspiring and knowledgeable, and it's been beautiful. And even this summer, I've put myself out there a lot more, especially in Jersey City, and I've met so many moms, so it's been great so far.
And now you're about to meet more
Yeah.
with us. So in your work, because we talked about this a little bit before about birth stories, you use birth stories in your work postpartum with
Yeah,
moms. So what would that look like? How do you
yeah.
use them and what's
So
the
for me,
process?
I call it reflective birth journaling,
Mm.
and it's a great combination of, clients and I, our mom and I, having that one-on-one time throughout their postpartum, journey with me. Depending on the day, if they need that particular session, that day I'll come in and we'll include it within my postpartum shift pretty much. And what that session would look like is that I will provide the mom with some prompts. They can review it ahead of time if they wish, but just some journaling prompts that are guided so that we can kind of like unravel their birth experience at their own pace.
Mm.
And there's no pressure. It's not a situation where I want to overwhelm them. And it's simply acknowledging that this is a safe space and a warm space for you to be vulnerable, and letting them know that their story matters and it's something to be honored.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I also have recognized that, we have our own stories, and often it's not discussed. It's not a conversation in any room at any time. It's something that is always internalized amongst us moms and birthing people. And for years, it will go on like that.
Yeah.
No one's sharing their story. Therefore, all of the emotions that are attached to it stay stored within our bodies.
Right.
And wherever the trauma may be throughout our bodies, there's no release of it. And so it then becomes this burden that we're holding onto for years to come because we're not expressing ourselves or letting it out. So, we'll go over the journaling prompts together, or even if it's not journaling, if they don't want to journal, we'll talk about it in a gentle and soft, space. And we end with a sound bath. And with the sound bath, the frequency and the vibrations of the singing bowls does have a positive effect on our bodies. And it allows us to release any of, those feelings that we do keep inside, or any traumas that are stored within our body. So I feel like putting a cap on the session with the sound bath, does have a very emotional ending to it. Yes, it is emotional throughout the process when we're discussing their story and sharing together. But that very end with the sound bath, it certainly is a very emotional part of the entire session, because we are allowing and giving our bodies permission to let go of what we've been keeping to ourselves for so long.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess you already touched on it a little bit, but so sharing our birth stories, like how is it such a powerful healing tool? Like exactly what makes it that way?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that it's a very big and powerful healing tool in a way where we're diving like deep into a space of connecting to ourselves, and we're being 100% honest with ourselves. And that alone gives us this like self-confidence, this boost, and knowing that our truth, it matters. Someone cares about our truth. And acknowledging where you are in that experience is also acknowledging what you've accomplished, regardless of how your birth story or your birth experience happened.
Right. And you're saying the sound healing, the frequencies do something in the body to kind of allow yourself
Yes.
to channel the emotions in a certain way that's more healing and easy
Yeah, I would
to.
say for me, it's more like on a spiritual kind of level, like my personal experience. But what I've seen with moms that I've worked with, it's tears, and sometimes it can be like so overwhelmingly emotional. It's sobbing.
Right.
And there's no other way to explain it, but the way that the frequencies kind of translate into your body and transition and move in your body. I don't know if you guys have ever had a sound bath, but after a sound bath, there's this like you're lightweight. That feeling that you walked in, maybe you were tense walking into a session, or you're having a hard day or maybe a hard week, things are going on and you might not really feel yourself 100%. After a sound bath, it puts you in this comfortable state, wholeheartedly.
Maybe we need to try it.
Yeah.
Really, really quite amazing.
Yeah.
Really?
It puts you at ease. And so I feel like it's almost like a comfort blanket for them. Yeah.
So again, we touched on the emotional, but some of the emotional and psychological benefits after they have shared, after they've allowed themselves to be open. What do you see in your clients when they've sort of crossed that threshold that they've let it go? What are the
Absolutely.
benefits?
I would say a lot of clients walk out of the sessions feeling relieved. That heavy weight that I guess they walked into the space with or have had is gone. And I would say that they feel a lot more in tune with who they are and their new identity. Because, with birth, you're being, there's a rebirth of yourself, your identity. You're no longer the same person you were prior to delivering your baby, So now you're kind of connecting the dots and acknowledging your feelings and your experience. And now you're tying it into the new person and a new version of yourself, the upgraded version of yourself. One who knows who they are 100% now. Like now those pieces that were missing that we did not discuss, everything kind of starts to fall into its place, and you're able to identify your role as a new version of yourself.
So I know you usually do it like one-on-one, obviously, with your clients. So how do you think how different do you think it is sharing it like amongst, moms in a community setting? Like
we've done, or we're going
we're
to.
going to be doing, or like we did last time. So how do you think that's different, or what are the benefits of that, do you think?
I typically do one-on-one sessions with clients. This would be like my first time doing a big community group. So I would say I expect, or I kind of see the session kind of being more of the mothers being able to look at each other and be able to connect and empathize with one another, respect one another, and having that space of being vulnerable in a group of other moms. And with those kinds of benefits, I would say that it can help a mom not feel too alone in her own experience and her feelings.
Yeah. What we saw a lot last time was that a lot of moms were surprised to hear similar stories to their own. And it was a huge relief in the fact that they were not alone.
Right.
They battled these feelings. And now being in that community was very releasing.
Yeah. Even I personally, I was like, oh my gosh, that happened to you as well. I remember somebody had said, I was like, that's always my story. and you don't really realize it happened to other people, because it was something that I always like, does this really happen to everybody else,
Right.
And yeah, it's validating, and yeah, you don't feel alone. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about telling birth stories? Does it help process unexpected or challenging parts of their experiences? Or is it always the traumatic stories that you work with? Or is there benefit in sharing your story when it's positive?
Yeah.
Or how does that play out?
I would say everyone's birth story is different, right? So whether it is traumatic, whether it is a positive one, there is still healing in your truth. The idea is to step into the upgraded version of yourself and understand who you are, and being able to process your experience, whether it was traumatic or not. When we reflect on our birth stories, sometimes we just forget things that happen, like even as small as bits of information that can honestly give us an answer as to why we may be responding to certain things in our life differently, or how we behave, or what we change in our lives. Whatever occurred during our birth experience does play a role in how we see things through in the future. So regardless of the fact of it being, one that is trauma filled or joyous, having the opportunity to lay out your experience is honoring it on its highest level, because no one else's story is the same.
Right. Because I think we sometimes forget that it's also important to share the positive ones, or the
it is.
funny
And
ones.
storytelling on its own is a very powerful
Yeah.
thing. Words are magical. So when we are just verbalizing or putting the words of the spell out into the universe, we are just claiming what's ours.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful way to look at it. And we talked a lot also about how trauma can sometimes come from having one expectation and it didn't pan out exactly. It doesn't have to be real life or death trauma, just the fact that it didn't come exactly as I had.
You wanted it.
And then there's
absolutely.
disappointment in that. And then often we blame ourselves. And
Right.
And
And
holding guilt. Yeah.
there is a client who I had earlier this summer, and she felt a little uneasy about her birth story because it did not go as planned, the way that she expected it. And of course, she's going to feel guilty about it, and may even just she's not herself. She's not looking at it in the best light at all. So her and I discussing her birth story, we came to an understanding and a conclusion that yes, we are acknowledging that your plans did not happen the way that you wanted them to.
Yeah.
And it is okay. And we're going to look at what you have accomplished, despite the fact that plans changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel that you still accomplished it in this way?
Right.
And to kind of uplift her in that way, and just kind of touching on and emphasizing where she did succeed and what was in her control.
Right.
It changed the perspective. Now we're no longer holding that or housing the guilt inside. We are accepting and we're being flexible with the fact that things changed, plans changed, but you accomplished something very big.
And that
That
was kind of the next question, because that affects her self-image, right?
Right.
After telling her story. So it has long-term effects,
Yes.
which is...
And it could also be physical, right? Where you had mentioned that before, like it could actually materialize in like illness.
Yes.
Holding onto that, the kids and all
when
that.
you are holding on to trauma and harboring things in your body and you're internalizing it for time, time after time, it does bring illness into our bodies. It does welcome disease, and we don't want to keep anything like that in our bodies.
Right. And I think most people, moms, don't realize, because I didn't realize that harboring these types of emotions and stress can actually make you physically ill. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it does play a role, of course, in their postpartum recovery. So it's like a well-rounded balance where, for me as a doula, yes, I'm able to offer this safe space for you in many different ways. But for me, when I am connecting with you and understanding your birth story and being allowed access to that, because it is a sacred story in my eyes, and it's a blessing to be able to have someone feel confident and comfortable enough to share it with me. I want to be able to hear it close enough and clearly that I know how to best support you throughout my time with you postpartum, and how your birth story and your experience is going to affect you throughout this journey, so I can show up for you.
Right.
So how do moms start? How would you tell them to go about starting to document or tell their story? Like, what are some steps that they can take?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, based on their comfortability, finding a safe space, whether you're alone, if you're going to share with a trusted friend, or maybe like a therapist or a doula like me, if you are comfortable in that space, you can start just jotting down, I guess, like the initial thoughts that come to mind when you think about your experience. And I mean, it doesn't have to be word from word or like part from part, whatever comes to mind first, just getting it down there. Or if it's an open conversation, starting where you remember, the most out of the experience. And, if necessary, also seeking professional help as like a therapist or whoever else they do need, if they feel like they're not able to do that alone or with a trusted person. Having a professional around to guide them through that is also beneficial as well. But, just journaling, talking about it, opening the floor in a conversation to speak with it with your spouse, your partner, whoever that may be. I feel like that's a wonderful start to begin to, document their experience.
Yeah. I even speak to moms that have had their babies a long time ago, and when you start triggering those talk about the birth stories, or it just seems to happen organically, it's always very vivid, no matter how long ago it was they gave birth. So it's great for moms who are able to have a doula and to do it right away, kind of process it, but I feel like there's a lot of moms who have not had that opportunity and have just held on to it. And when you open that door, it's like a floodgate of
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
an
mean,
event
typically
like
what
this,
happens when you have the baby, right? No one's coming to, oh, tell me a birth story. Some people
yeah,
do. And I do newborn photography, right? So I always hear their stories
Yeah.
because that's what I want to hear.
I love that.
But typically, people come to you and they want to see the baby and da, da, da. It's not really about the mom most of the time.
Hmm.
So her story goes far behind her brain, and you probably start to even forget some of it. But
Right.
yeah, so it's, yeah.
Even
But
like
I'm
with
thinking like,
my
go ahead.
mom is in her late 40s.
Yeah.
And when I bring it up, forget about it. It's like I'm like,
Mm.
okay, let's calm it down a bit, mom. I'm gonna guide you through it. We're gonna talk about this, and just trying to ease her through it because it's so much for her to process, and it
Mm.
it still hits her very hard. And she's had 4 kids,
Mm.
so sometimes I feel like she may even confuse one birth experience with the other.
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's a lot. Like it's a vivid memory in our minds
Mm.
that we're going to forever remember,
Mm.
So the more that we acknowledge it, the more that we're able to kind of change the narrative for us
Yeah.
and who we are.
right. And that's why I always want to emphasize that a birth story circle like the one we will be doing is not just for the new mom. It's for any mom who
Oh,
has
yes.
Yeah,
harboring these feelings. And you don't have to come to share even. It's just being in the room together with your peers, with moms who have
absolutely.
through this incredible birth process is healing in and of itself, even if it's just offering support and compassion and understanding and
Yeah.
comfort, right?
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. Always shared experiences are always great
Yes,
to hear.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Is
So,
there
yeah.
anything else you'd like to add from
Yeah.
your experience that we haven't touched on, something that you find important or look
Um,
forward to?
And how do people find you as well? Like,
oh,
tell us
oh,
everything.
yes, yes. I mean, I guess as far as the healing circle, I'm really excited for this. This will be my first one outside of a one-on-one setting. So I'm excited to, co-facilitate it with Adrian and with you guys, and of course, Terry from JC Moms.
Yeah.
Um, and I look forward to being able to connect with all the mamas and, just letting you guys know that it is a safe
Right,
space and we want you guys to be a part of it. We want you to feel validated and heard and seen, and your stories truly do matter, you
right.
know?
Absolutely. Exactly
Yeah,
what is we're doing what we're doing.
yeah.
Yes. Um, Maria, you want to talk about the event next week really quick?
Well, just as a reminder, again, it's next week on Wednesday at Anco North in Jersey City. We start at 6 o'clock and we go through the evening, and we can't wait to see everybody. You can go to our page to sign up. We still have a few spots left, but we try to keep it very small and intimate so everyone gets time and time to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think
And where
that's
can they
it.
find you
Oh,
otherwise,
yeah. What's
Victoria?
going to
Oh,
find?
yes, yes. You can find me here on Instagram at New Era Doula. I'm also on Facebook, and you can visit me or submit any inquiries on my website at neweradoula.com.
Well, we
Great.
can't wait to have you next week. Join us. And
I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
mamas out there, make sure you sign up. RSVP. It's a free event. Anchor North next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Can't wait to
Absolutely.
have you
See you
guys.
there.
Thank you guys. Have a great weekend.
Happy
Bye,
Friday.
Bye.
guys.